This is the Bar Stewards Enquiry.
Right? You're talking absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
In what way?
You were an underachiever in life. I saved your bacon one time. You were gone.
You handled that well. I couldn't save you. But you did the right thing.
But that's why you don't know anything about racing, John.
I didn't say I do.
Right?
I'm saying that...
What have you contributed to racing? You're one of these take-out merchants. Take out all you can.
And a huge Happy New Year and a very warm welcome to the Bar Stewards Enquiry New Year's Day podcast. Myself, Lee Keys of systembet.co.uk, is joined by John Lang. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Lee. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well, sir. And last but not least, just three on the show this week due to commitments of other contributors. But certainly last but not least, he's bouncing after training a winner at Wetherby with Demi Sang the other day, Neville Ender. Welcome, Neville.
Good evening and a happy New Year's Eve.
Yes. I really enjoyed your horse winning the other day, primarily because I'd laid the second.
At what stage did you lay the second?
Probably about 2 out, I think. In running, so I was absolutely bouncing when yours. More so, and I bet you were jumping up and down when old Demi Sang did the biz for you on stable debut.
Yeah, surprisingly he was able to win on ground conditions that probably didn't suit him over a trip that was short of his best, and his first run for nearly 5 weeks. But maybe that's the key to him. Heavy ground. 2 miles.
I mean, you've certainly done the trick. You've sweetened him up there from the other yard. So, I mean, that was plain to see. You got a happy horse there. Let's hope he keeps happy and onwards. So Demi Sang for Nev there. Right. Without further ado, we'll get on with the.
You expanded the plot there. Nev going and winning with that.
Yeah, I know. No bets have been landed here, unfortunately.
There's no plot, I can assure you.
No
plot.
Nev's just happy to train winners. So we'll get on to the tipping part of the show and where we go give our 3 best bets each contributor, and hopefully we'll make it a New Year's Day to remember while you're recovering from those hangovers. So we'll move on to the first bet of the weekend. I shall go first. I shall lead you off. With a bit of an obvious one, really, but I still think it's a little bit of value. So I'm just going the 1 point stake in the 125 Cheltenham, the Dipper Novices Chase, Long Press at 15 to 8. I think that's a little big, if I'm honest. It's usually sod's law because this horse has cost me fortunes so far. It jumps badly left-handed. It edged to the left at Exeter. It jumped to the left before over hurdles. And yet they went right-handed twice and managed to win twice at Ascot and at Exeter. And it cost me fortunes. So you know what sod's law is, that Long Press will turn up left-handed where it should absolutely adore conditions and that way around. And you know how the game works. It'll probably jump like an idiot and then I'll probably do my money punting it, and that's the sod's law. But Long Press for me, I think he was always going to make a better chaser due to his physique, and I do like the horse in this, and I think 15 to 8 is very fair to win the Dipper tomorrow at Cheltenham. So that's 1 point win, Long Press at 15 to 8 for me. Neville Ender, I would like your third best bet of New Year's Day, please.
Well, I'm going to go to Fakenham for the third best. And it's a filly that I've literally followed over a cliff. But I dared not let her win without me having something on her. And I do think that there is some scope now. She's upped in trip. Table Mountain in the 340 at Fakenham. She was a really good flat race filly for Andrew Balding. And she used to race between 1.6 miles and 2 miles on the flat. And rather surprisingly, her present trainer, Tom Simmons, has been keeping her to around 2 miles, although he did try her one day over an extended 2 mile 3 at Huntingdon. But primarily she's been kept to around the minimum trip over hurdles. I think this step up to 3 miles could be the making of her. I'm not saying it definitely will be, but it could be. I mean, he must have had his reasons why he kept her to 2 miles. But she runs off a mark of 103, which is... You wouldn't put her down as being absolutely chucked in, but it's not a strong race. And she has got the blinkers on for the first time, which could be a positive or a negative. It could make her run free, in which case she'll find the trip on the far side. But I'm going to give her one more chance. Table Mountain, 340. I'm hoping the distance will suit her, and she should be a reasonable price as well.
340 at Fakenham then for Neville's third best bet. That's Table Mountain. No prices are out yet at the time of recording. So what we'll do is we'll give Nev a fair price on the opening shows, and that'll be the price we'll record it at for a 1 point win for Tom Simmons' filly there, Table Mountain. John, come to your third best bet of the New Year's Day cards, please.
I bet both of our remainingly solvent listeners are champions to get this.
That's why we've got Neville on, just to bring balance to the force.
Yeah, I mean it's funny, this game, isn't it? You know, I mean, you got a Welsh national behind closed doors, then Cheltenham say fuck you, they're only down the road and they're letting 30,000 in tomorrow.
That's a crazy world.
Insane, isn't it? Really. I mean, the best thing about tomorrow is that Doncaster is no longer next year.
The road to Doncaster, yeah.
We were actually in Doncaster, yeah.
Yeah, we can count it in days rather than in months.
Starting tomorrow, you know. I mean, February's only 4 weeks, isn't it? So, I mean, that's nout.
Yes, we'd start talking about the Lincoln in February, yeah.
Damn right. Well, my first bet is in the 210 at Musselburgh.
Yep.
I'm taking on Tommy's Oscar because I think the ground might just go a little bit too soft for it, and I'm not exactly convinced that sticking a claimer is the best move round here either. I think you want a bit of jockeyship, and I think Henry Brook on first impression, providing that can jump a bit better than last time, it's won on heavy at air on the flat. I think that's probably a little bit of value against Tommy's Oscar in this race, and I'm going with that one anyway. 1 point win.
Well, the interesting thing for me about first impression, he was very impressive at Wetherby. He did look a very well handicapped horse off 120, obviously, given his second to Dubai Souk off 85 on the flat. He made light work of the 120 there at Wetherby, and obviously didn't get very far last time out at Musselburgh. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think if there's one well handicapped horse in there, it could be him. If he brings his A game, he sometimes doesn't.
As I said, I tend to think quite a few of these won't handle the ground either.
Yeah. Well, he's kept Anna Bonina away from soft ground a lot. I don't know if that's that John McConnell has, whether that's just a plan or just the way it's happened. But he's always seemed to keep that horse for good ground. But yeah, interesting. So first impression, John, 7-2. You're going to get for your 1 point on the nose selection as your third best. So
you're right. Well, that's 3.5 points back in selling.
We need every point we can get. So we've gone to my second best bet, and it goes again at Cheltenham. I've tried to stick to the television cards for maximum adrenaline and entertainment. Not there'll be much adrenaline flying around on New Year's Day, but Pylon is my second best in the 235. Philip Hobbs and Ben Jones, 11-2 available. I think that is excellent value for money, really. And I wouldn't put you off if you want. I'm going win, but I think each way also has some appeal with some rather generous looking bookmaker each way terms in certain areas, if that's your thing and you can get on. But Pylon, for me, I genuinely believe this horse should be market leader. I think Philip Hobbs has got him back after some really sketchy runs that he was putting in last season, and I think that's the key, because he was second in a Martin Pipe off 138 to Indefatigable, and that is the strongest form by some way in this. I don't think you'll get any superior form anywhere. And as I say, he was impressive last time. When beating the Cobb at Sandown, and still, I think the mark's still very workable off 137, and I think that's a nice play for me. So I'm going to go 2 points on the nose, Pylon exactly, in the 235 Cheltenham tomorrow. So that's my second best bet. Neville, come to your second best, please.
My second best of the day is at Catterick in the 320, and it's one of Brian Ellison's. He's got 2 in the race. He's put Nathan Moscrop on Shamrock Wine, which I suppose you could argue could be the pick of the jockey book, because Nathan used to ride out quite a lot for him. But Sam Coulthard rides the other one. It's a horse called Baltic Baron, who is coming on the back of a wind operation, which has probably been the reason why he hasn't been finishing his races off that well recently. He's had just a handful of starts, the 3 obligatory runs for a handicap mark, and all those 3 runs over hurdles have been at Sedgefield. His last run was possibly his best, although I've noticed the Racing Post had him running to 100 on his last 2 starts. But he's a horse that goes on the ground. He'll enjoy the sharp 2 miles at Catterick, and off 102 he could be thrown in. I'm not saying it on his form he is thrown in, but he could be thrown in if that wind surgery can just have the desired effect. And obviously when the ground's riding soft, you do get concerned that horses that have had wind surgery or have had a wind issue, it can catch them out. But Catterick's not really a course that comes up very, very testing, although it probably will tomorrow on saying that. But I think Baltic Baron, he, for me, could be thrown in off 102.
Interesting. And like you said, very, very good flat form for Baltic Baron in his career. Raced in the high 90s for David O'Mara. Ended up with Brian, obviously not running to those levels, but still a very smart level in the summer. Probably the pick of them was second to Sharpcliffe at York over 10 films off 83. So again, 102 seems quite attractive, Nev. Like you say, if the wind surgery has had a positive effect, it could make the horse very tough to beat if it has had that desired effect. No tissue prices at the moment and no odds. It's looking like it's going to be about a 5 or a 6 to 1 chance from what I can see. Would you be going each way, Neville, for your bet?
I wouldn't go each way on anything beneath 50 to 1. So if you give me 50 to 1, we'll go each way, but I wouldn't be entertaining each. I just don't like betting each way. You either win or you don't win. Yeah.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, Quentin's the same. That's why you two sit at top of the Naps table, while us each way Charlies sit at the bottom. So it's a 2-point win for Baltic Baron for Nev as his second best bet. And again, we'll give him the best. We'll give him as soon as the shows come out. We'll record that for the Naps table purposes. So thank you, Neville, for that. An interesting selection. John, your second best, please.
I'm actually in the 250 at Musselburgh tomorrow with a horse of Big Ginger's, Gaelic Coast.
Gaelic Coast, yeah, McCain's, yeah.
So I thought this one had excuses last time. They reported that he'd slipped on the approach to the first, never travelled after, so on and so forth. I'm convinced more so by the fact that this is taking on quite a few wild dogs and shit houses really here, and I think this horse still has a little bit of potential about it, and given that potential, I'm quite happy to rock along with that one.
Yep, Gaelic Coast, not the best of races. I mean, you look at the opposition. Gold de Bois often gets beat. Amour de Nuit, although travels strongly in its races, obviously sometimes doesn't find as much as what you expect. Nietzsche has several jumping problems at the moment. So a solid selection from yourself. So Gaelic Coast, John, 4 to 1. I'm giving you for a 2-point on the button bet for your second best bet. So good luck with that. Okay, we'll come on to best bets now. Drum roll. Mine again goes in a television affair. 3:10 at Cheltenham tomorrow, and I'm very, very keen at the prices. He's under pressure at the moment at the time of recording, but I still think there's a lot of value there. The 5 to 1 available about Stormy Island there in the 3:10, the Relkeel hurdle. The mare is very attractive for me indeed. I have no idea why she's been put in so big, because since she was obviously a very good mare when trained by Willie before going to Paul Nicholls, who obviously didn't have the right vet or medication, and couldn't get the best out of Stormy Island. Back to Willie Mullins, where the jungle juice is rife, and good old Willie got her playing a good tune last season. She won 2 races, including a Grade 1, and she was, to me, that level of form with the weight she gets with the mare's allowance against the males here, the £7 in the case of Brewing Up a Storm, the favourite. I think that brings her right in it. That means that if Brewing Up a Storm's 157, she's got to run to 150. Well, I think she is 150 on a day, and she proved last season she was at 150 level. And I don't really get the price at 5 to 1. I think, like I say, this will tear off in front. Nothing will take her on. And it's one of those, really. It's whether she's on her A game, and if she brings her A game, she's going to be very, very tough, I feel. So Stormy Island is my best bet at the prices, certainly, and it's a 3-point win on the nose bet, and hopefully can beat Brewing Up a Storm and McFabulous to land the Relkeel for my best bet of New Year's Day. Neville, coming to you for your best bet of tomorrow.
Maybe not necessarily the best bet, but because I do fancy my other 2 quite strongly, but I'm going to nominate Art Approval in the 235 at Cheltenham. It is a tough handicap. I'm not deluding myself into thinking this horse is a snip by any means, but it's interesting if you look closely through this horse's form. He's only had 10 races in his life, of which 3 of those were over middle or staying distances on the flat in France. He's lightly raced. He's been to Cheltenham on 4 previous occasions, and on all 4 occasions he's shown improvement. In his last run was over 2 mile 5, so you take his stamina on trust. He's never raced beyond that distance, but he runs like he wants to go up in trip. He's been raised £8 for his win over Paris Calor. Paris Calor has since gone on to win, as has my Bobby Dazzler, I think I'm right in saying, and there's been another one as well further down that's won over fences. He's from a yard in form. He, for me, would be the only horse that has got scope to improve. There are dangers, but I did actually think Dolphin Squire looked okay, but I couldn't have him with his champion amateur rider on. I just couldn't. You mentioned Pylon, an obvious chance, and Tamar Bridge, who did us a good turn, or did me a good turn last seen about a month ago. He's another one. But I think there is value in Art Approval at around. I haven't seen any betting, but I am assuming they're going to go 4 or 5 to 1 the field. I think he loves Cheltenham. He's got a lot in his favour. Acts on soft ground, and I don't think there are any negatives, but I'm under no illusions. It's a tough race, but I'm going to make him my nap for New Year's Day.
Good stuff. So it'd be 3 points win for you, sir, at 11 to 2. So that's a fair enough price. That's with Bet365 at the current time of recording. Bet365 usually hold them overnight if you can get on overnight. If not, no worries. Plenty of 5s available also. So thank you for that, Nev, and the best of luck there with your best selection, Art Approval, who goes head to head with Pylon, with myself liking that. So interesting. Which one do you prefer, listeners? Interesting race indeed. John, over to you for your very best bet of New Year's Day.
Well, in the interest of keeping our 2 remaining listeners spinning right over, I've gone to Nass on Sunday, actually.
Ah, right, fair, yeah. That's
the Grade 1 novice, where you've got Willie taking on BFJ, which is a bit like saying, do you want diphtheria or cholera, isn't it? But I've actually rode along with What Do You Want in that race. It's considerably better than the 2 BFJ horses on the clock. Plus, I think it's going to be rotten ground there, and this has really good bumper form and heavy. And I'm very surprised at the price. I think this is round about the 92 mark. And I'll make this about 5-2, 11-4, to be honest, against these. So I'm happy to rock along with this all in.
Good stuff. I mean, it is a competitive affair. You've got Hollow Games heading the market at 11-8, Ginter second in at 2-1, and yourself, John, third in at 9-2.
Yeah, I'd like to think I'm having a good cut at these champion juvenile races in Ireland, and yet I'm not actually trousering any cash. I thought I should have trousered some cash last week when Three Stripe Life got probably the worst ride Davy Russell's ever likely to dish out to anything.
Yeah, I thought that probably should have won. Yeah.
Gets on Galvin and rides like fucking God, doesn't he? I mean,
yeah.
It's just the way it seems to be going at the minute. Every self-fulfilling prophecy is coming true.
It is. There's plenty of seconds and thirds amongst the bets on the Bastures at the moment, but Neville and Quentin holding the fort up nicely. But John's best bet is what do you want in the 210 at Naas? That's the Lawlers of Naas Novice Hurdler Grade 1 affair. 210. Don't forget it's on the Sunday, not New Year's Day. Don't get your times mixed up. So don't forget that one. So that's John with his best bet of the weekend at 9-2. Thank you, John, and thank you, Neville, for your selections. Let's hope it's a good weekend for us and punters likewise. We'll move on to the terrestrial television affairs now, obviously to give people a guidance for anything that you might have any thoughts on, and we'll have a look at we'll open up with the Dipper Novices Chase at Cheltenham, the 125 race, where obviously I've tipped up Long Press for obvious reasons, going left-handed at 15-8. Neville, did you have any thoughts in the Dipper at the prices maybe or?
It's a cracking race, and I think whatever wins it is going to be cut for the respective targets at the festival, even at this early stage. I take on board Long Presses from a yard that they seem to place their horses incredibly well, and all the Venetia Williams horses just seem to love deep ground. I think her gallop is a very deep gallop, and they train on that. It's definitely a step up in grade from the handicap it won last time, and I think it's probably, and I think it's going to represent little value. The one I thought was worth, I say risking, is a good horse, Miller's Bank of Alex Hales. He jumped beautifully at Huntingdon when he made his chasing debut. Admittedly, it was only a moderate race, but you've got to start somewhere. And then his jumping got found out at Newbury. He was chasing Pic D'Orhy of Paul Nichols's when he came down either 3 or 4 out. He probably would have only been second to that one had that one stood up. In fact, Miller's Bank himself unseated his rider as well when he looked the winner at the second last. But I think he's the best of these over hurdles, and I'm going to forgive him for them jumping lapses last time. I think it's a tough race, and he's going to have to be every bit as good over fences as he was over hurdles to win it. But I'm going to stick with him, although it is a cracking race.
Yeah, absolutely. Some good comments there regarding Miller's Bank. I agree with you. He sort of let himself down with his jumping last time. I didn't expect that from him either. Really, I kind of expected more after how well he jumped on his debut at Huntingdon.
The point I'd like to say, Lee, is that the jockey Harry Bannister, I think, is the most improved rider over the past 24 months of any jockey riding at the moment. I think he's absolutely superb. That's
interesting comments. I mean, Harry Bannister, you associate with not getting, many big rides. I mean, obviously from the point to point scene, in the past he's rode for Mick Easterby and he rode for Harriet Bethel today. He, amongst other trainers, Alex Hales, Richard Bandy, he rides for, I think. But he certainly could be worth keeping an eye on him, and maybe he probably deserves some better chances.
He's not that young. He's been around a long time. I would assume he's probably in his late 20s now. The horse you just mentioned, Richard Bandy. He rode a terrific race on Richard Bandy's horse, the 4-year-old Chaser, the other day at.
He made me sick.
Ride.
Yeah, I was heavy on the second Jericho Rock, and you're right. He was fantastic on it. Because the horse basically wasn't foot perfect, and I just liked the way he kept balance. He didn't panic. He never panicked at any point, and much to my despair, it was a really, really cracking ride, and like you say. Maybe a jockey there for listeners to look at in future, possibly one of the under the radar, even though he's like you say, he's been around a while, probably one under the radar there for one or two listeners to keep a watch on Harry Bannister when he's on one that you fancy. So Miller's Bank, a very positive mention for Nev, and probably rightly so, the best over hurdles, he says, and willing to forgive him for the errors last time. John, any thoughts on this?
To be honest with you, I like your horse especially going left-handed after he jumped last term.
Yeah.
I would keep an eye on the weather. I think if it goes proper soft, I think it'll bring Glancing Queen into it by Jeremy. You'd have no worries on the ground with that one, and getting weight as well. I think she'd probably be my idea of the biggest danger, but I think yours will win.
Yeah, Glancing Queen, obviously a mare I really like. Very impressive at Warwick last time when beating Barbados Blue, obviously. But this is another step up from that. So it'd be interesting to see how she goes, and probably agree with Nev. Really, what a cracking race to start terrestrial coverage at Cheltenham on New Year's Day. On to the 2 o'clock, where this is the Paddy Power New Year's Day handicap chase over 2.5 miles. Similar sort of format to the Paddy Power series, really, where they had the old Thomas Pink and the Mackerson, etc. And Cool Cody bids to arguably could have probably make it 3 had he not fallen the time before. Cool Cody winning last time. John, I'll come to you first. Any views on this? I know Al Nadam made you. Oh, not Al Nadam. Zanza made us a little bit sick last time because I tipped it up and. It was absolutely making ground hand over fist late, but was never getting there. Frustrating. I haven't tipped him up this time because I thought it was 7-1. You any thoughts here, John, on this?
Well, Zanza was pure heartbreak, wasn't it, last time?
Yeah, I thought so.
I'm not sure whether they'll try the same trick again and drop the horse out and try and pass 14 or 15 up the hill. I just don't see how it works, because the minute you do that, you're betting on pinging the last 8 fences, aren't you?
Well, it missed the second last start as well, which was.
I mean, that's what you're betting on, isn't it? Really, you're saying, well, we're going to ping the last 8, and this horse isn't going to, is he? I mean, that's the problem.
No,
his jumping doesn't seem to hold up under pressure.
No.
The one I was interested in actually at a price was a Toy Phil for the Gillydale Brigade. Despite the advancing age, I mean this thing was nudging 160 at one point. Well, he's had his problems and all the rest of it, but I mean 136. Assuming these can get him right, and I mean, he's 12-year-old, I mean, they're not going to be able to piss about ever and say, oh, we'll give him 3 or 4 to get him straight. I mean, they need to be having him right and having a pop. And I think of 10-7, the bloody thing will think it's running loose tomorrow. 28-1, too big.
Okay, interested. I mean, certainly for the old brigade, Black Lion was very impressive at Haydock earlier this week. On
he's going to end up in the national again. That poor bugger, isn't
he? At the ripe old age of 13, or will he be 14 then in the national? Is that right? Have I read that right?
How old is he now?
I think he's 13.
He's 12 now, I think.
Oh, he's 12. Sorry.
I think he's 12. I haven't looked, but I think he's 12. I can't imagine there would be a 14-year-old. I don't know. In the national. No. But he's looking good value now at 300 grand, isn't he, for Darren Yates?
Yeah. I mean, jeez. I mean, he's some price to pay, but I mean, I was like blown away by his last performance. I thought it was almost like he was probably at his very best there, like of his entire career. Can't remember many better efforts probably on, but then it was very deep ground, and we know he handles that kind of ground, and we know that that's what he excels in, whereas probably everything else might not totally excel in ground that deep. Neville, going back to the 2 o'clock then, any view here for you?
Yeah, interesting to hear what you were saying about Zanza. I've backed him the last twice at in those big handicaps, and I did notice from looking back through previous performances, I think he's a horse that they genuinely thought he was a 2-miler, and they've dropped him in just to make sure that they don't stretch his stamina. And he's almost become very lazy now. He did wear a hood in his earlier part of his career, and it was probably a little bit fizzy, but now he seems to have gone the other way. And they're actually putting some cheek pieces on him tomorrow, just to maybe give him a little bit more help, or the jockey a bit more help in the early part of the race.
Yeah,
he's got a fair mark. You couldn't single him out and say he's thrown in, because he's not. He's on his proper mark for what he's achieved. He's weighted to dead heat with Cool Cody, but I think that had he not got hampered and had a clear passage from the top of the home straight last time, he probably would have prevailed. I'm not convinced he wants really soft ground, although he was travelling well one day at Cheltenham when he fell, I think, at the third last on soft ground. But his best form prior to this season had been on good ground. But I'm going to stick with Zanza. There are loads of dangers. I couldn't have a Trois Fil. If I was looking for a horse that wouldn't be winning tomorrow, a Trois Fil would be my number one. I just do not. I think he's completely gone, and I think you have to be somewhere near your best to win these handicaps.
Yeah.
The top weight's a good horse. The Venetia Williams horse, Funambula Savola, second in the Peterborough Chase, probably wasn't his career best performance. And off 155, to win these races, you have to be, I would say you have to be at least £7 above your present mark to win these races, because the third and fourth horses in these type of races are going to run to form. So you probably have to be. So is Funambula Savola a 162 horse? Probably not.
No.
So then you're looking further down the weights, and sort of from halfway downwards, they're not great, are they? You know, Galahad Quest, Admiral Barati, High Up in the Air. They were winning at smaller tracks. I think High Up in the Air started winning at Plumpton or Fontwell last season. You know, this is a big step up to Cheltenham. It's a tough race, but there are a lot of out of form horses in here. The two Nichols horses are not exactly on fire. Either Magic Saint and Simply the Best ran awful last time. Janica's not exactly at the peak of his form either. I think Zanza's got a real good chance.
Yeah, I think it's one of those races again, Nev, where, like you say, that you cannot afford any mistakes. You've got to be absolutely.
That's his problem, isn't it? He does make the odd error, does Zanza.
Yeah, indeed. And like you said, there's always one sort of like balloon or in the race, and because of the nature of the track as well, you can find yourself on the back foot there, and then that's when problems start with clear passages, etc. So Zanza, I was interested in at 14-1 last time, 7-1 now. Kind of, I'm more lukewarm and more of an in-running punter for me in terms of Zanza tomorrow. Okay, we'll move on to the 2:35. It's the 3-mile Paddy Power handicap hurdle. Again, a relatively competitive affair that we've already covered off, myself and Neville. Neville with art approval and myself with pylon, both solid chances. You can see both reasonings there. John, anything to add on this race? What did you think on the 2:35?
If pressed for a bet, which thankfully I'm not, I would probably have rocked along with Ask Dylan, who I think is fairly consistent. He's a course and distance winner. He's won off a higher mark than he's off here. For the lad that's riding him actually tomorrow. And I think if I had to have a bet, he'd be an each-way player for me.
Okay, Nev, would I be harsh in saying Max Kendrick off and Liam Harrison back on is no negative.
I'd say it's a big positive.
I didn't want to like
without that claim.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one from John, and the fact that old Max in the saddle and Liam Harrison, who gave a good ride to One Eye back the other day, Tip Top Cat, Fergal O'Brien's. Again, didn't panic. Similar sort of ride to Harry Bannister on St. Palais. Never panicked.
Quite a decent rider, isn't he?
Yeah, never panicked, and just and kept the horse wide in the best ground away from the chewed up ground late in the day. And I just thought that's a lad that's he rode that quite maturely, I felt. So yeah, Liam Harrison would be a plus from Max Kendrick. So interesting there, John. So we'll move on to the final race at Cheltenham, which is the Relkeel. Again, I've tipped up here, so I'll stay quiet. And Neville, I would like your thoughts on the Relkeel, please.
Yeah, it's really a nightmare, isn't it? I fancied the horse that's been taken out, Indefatigable, but
yeah,
it probably wouldn't have won because of taking it out because of the soft ground. But I thought she had the best chance. I can understand why you fancy Stormy Island, but she did run awful last time. I know it was in probably a better race than this, but I'm not convinced. I don't like horses that moved from 1 yard from the top yard like Paul Nicholls, even to Willie Mullins. I know she seemed to improve for going back to Willie Mullins, but can she really improve again? I don't like Stormy Island. I don't fancy her. I've got no strong opinion, but if pushed, I'd probably go for McFabulous if everything's okay with him. He hasn't been out for 268 days, which, there's been some good staying hurdles around that he could have run in. So maybe he has had a problem. And I have noticed that he's had a wind surgery since we last saw him. But he's open to improvement. I mean, it was only his second season last year. He was a novice, but he was a good novice. And then he had, was he a novice last season? I think he was a novice. He hasn't been over raced anyway. He's probably got a bit more scope. Was he a novice last year? He can't be, can he? Because he's 8 years now.
No, I don't think he was. I'm just looking. No, he wasn't. He wasn't a novice last year.
No, but he's probably open to more improvement than anything in the race. I thought the international hurdle that Guardio Dreams won was the worst renewal. I'm not saying it was a bad race, but in comparisons to other years, it wasn't a great international hurdle that he won. And I see the handicapper didn't even have him improving. He's left him on 147 for that. Brewing Up a Storm he won at Aintree last time. He's got that penalty, hasn't he, to give to two or three of them. I've no strong opinion, but if I'm forced to have a bet, it would be McFabulous. But I'm not forced to have a bet, so I'll just offer it as a selection.
Well, the interesting thing, McFabulous was 6-4 on to beat Brewed Up a Storm in last season's National Spirit at Fontwell.
Yeah, at Fontwell, yeah.
Yeah, and McFabulous jumped awful that day. Really awful. Jumped to the right, made a bad mistake. He just whether he just didn't like the sharp nature of the track, I don't know. But he just wasn't happy from an early stage.
Better in this time though for 5
exactly.
Thanks.
Exactly. So with that in mind, you make a good point because you've got 5.5 to make up. You're £6 better, and he didn't do anything right that day. So you make the point that McFabulous could be the best horse in the race first off the wind up. So Neville there making a very good point about McFabulous. If the wind ups were, this wouldn't again, like you say, Guardian Dreams 147. The handicapper left him alone for winning a poor international. And yeah, it's a winnable race for something that obviously shows up, and McFabulous could well do that. John, your opinion on this?
Isn't it really well named, McFabulous? It sounds like a Scottish drag queen.
I was thinking McDonald's, like some kind of new burger.
I think this is fairly simple tomorrow, actually. Stick yourselves £200 on Stormy Island and get out at threes in running before the top. Yeah.
Well, there is that, because I know on the blind side often goes Andy, but nothing usually.
No, I won't take this on.
No, nothing usually takes this on.
Softies out.
But yeah, for you Carnberry budding wannabes out there, that could be the play there at Stormy Islands, the back to lay, and it'll probably go short and get beat as for once of most of my naps recently. And Nev also very keen on McFabulous and made a good point there. I felt about that horse. I would if I wasn't back in Stormy Island, who Nev doesn't fancy, I would be on McFabulous, I think, rather than brewing up a storm. On the better terms compared to Fontwell last year, where things didn't go right. Right, we'll go up to north of the border for 3 races on the telly box there. And the first one that ITV are showing is the 140, which is the Betway Hair of the Dog handicap hurdle. And looking at the race in question, it looks like Jeremino is the market leader for Donald McCain and Brian Hughes. Nev, any thoughts on this?
I absolutely detest this race. I've got no opinion whatsoever. I tried to make a case for something, and I found that there were negatives with just about everything in the race, save for Jeremino, who seems to be improving. But the handicap has had his say. He's put him up to 133. The only one I could put forward was Nicky Richards' horse, Caius Marcius, who was a very good novice chaser, but they've put him back to hurdles for the past couple of seasons, and he chased home the horse that we've already discussed, First Impression at Wetherby, off a £2 higher mark than what he runs off. And it's not impossible with Connor Rabbit, he used to be in Ireland, but he's gone to be the conditional now at Nicky Richards, and he can claim, because he hasn't ridden 3 winners, he can claim the full £10 allowance. He's only got 10 stone too.
He'll be running rampant, won't he?
I'm going to say his ears stick out of his helmet, I'm told.
But he's going to be he's almost going to be a double figure price in a race that nothing stood out for me. I'm going to take a chance with Caius Marcius.
So Caius Marcius for Nev, and that's a boost for your bet, John, who thumped this one. Whether it be your first impression. So Nev's giving you a boost for your first impression if he likes Caius Marcius with the £10 bug boy, as they like to call them in the States, taking the 10 off to bring it down to a workable 10 stone 2. I'm in Nev's camp here. This is possibly a port and pate race, John. If you've got any port, that is.
I'm well fixed for port, actually. I've got 3 bottles of Coburn Special Reserve in the cupboard at time of recording. So
yeah.
I'm all right for part, and I've got a tremendous selection of cheeses for tomorrow, actually.
Oh, tremendous, outstanding. Dutch Gouda, by any chance? Marks and Spencer?
Believe it or not, no.
Oh, that's disgraceful.
I know. Well, Jason McIver was very kind and brought me 3 lovely ones from Lewis and Cooper in Northallerton, who purveyors of fine cheeses and wines. Huh? If you'd like to send us a case of anything, obviously we're always up to receive gifts.
Yeah.
On the battlefield.
Yeah, absolutely.
The one I kind of like to, the one I'd like to say win, actually, because I'd like to see him get a winner tomorrow, is Brian Ellison's horse, Ashington. A nice little pipe opener at Savills 10 days ago. And I think that it could be argued there's still a little bit more in the locker for this horse. Again, Henry Brook, I think he rides fairly well round here. I couldn't be strong on it, but I would like to see Brian have a winner. He's had a rough week, him and Claire, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I completely concur about the race from Nev's point of view and what you're saying. It's not a race for me to get involved in, so I apologise. I'm not offering anything in that. Won't be getting involved. 2:10 race there. It's the quite valuable Betway Hogmaneigh handicap hurdle over the minimum trip. John, obviously you've tipped up First Impression, and I definitely agree with you that if there's one horse in here that still has more to come at the mark, it has to be this one. I can't see any other runner in the race that's got much really in hand. I mean, Christopher Wood arguably, has dropped a little bit in the weights and has won over this course and distance off a mark of 143 before. I genuinely feel though he loves a strong pace to run at, etc. So whether we'll get that here for Christopher Wood to show his very best, I'm not so sure. I always think
you
he
might
likes
get
to run it nice.
hair enough.
Well, yeah, you could do, I suppose. Yeah, of Gingers, yeah. Absolutely. Nev, your thoughts on this, please?
I think they'll go a good gallop, and I think the generally do go round Musselburgh. They go a good pace because it's such a sharp track. And 5 and 20, I think, will probably make it. It used to lead in its novice season. This is another very difficult handicap that you couldn't be confident about anything really. Anne Hamilton must be just about the best permit trainer around at the moment, with horses like Pay the Piper, Nutswell, Babington Bob, and Tommy's Oscar. To have just those horses from a handful in your yard must be crazy, really. But Tommy's Oscar's gone up to 150 now, and life's going to be difficult for him. Tom Midgley takes off a good 7. He is good value for his £7 claim. Christopher Wood, for me, was my idea of the possible winner. He has won round here. Angus Chelida is, like Tom Midgley, another jockey that's good value. I couldn't really be strong on anything. I give Anna Bonina second in the Scottish champion last year, £2 higher this time. Got to have a chance, although I think the ground might be the key to that one. I think she needs it a bit quicker than what it's going to be. And First Impression off just 10 stone 3 has got a featherweight. It's a race you couldn't be confident about going into it, but if I had to put up a token selection, it'd be Christopher Wood, but that's purely. It wouldn't surprise me if it got beat, though. Yeah,
good shout. Good shouts from the pair of you. We'll move on to the 250 race, which is the final race there. The Betway Auld Reekie handicap chase, where John has tipped up Gallic Coast for Brian Hughes and McCain, and he's in his best bets. Neville, thoughts here?
Gallic Coast he's got his fair share of weight, 140, but you look at the race, and again, you can pick holes with a lot of them. Niche share of Brian Ellison's at the foot of the handicap was a class act on his day. Won the Greatwood Hurdle. He hasn't quite reached the same heights over fences. I'm not convinced he totally enjoys jumping fences. Gold Dubois one pace, and those 2s next to his name testify that. And Amour Dunouy is another horse that is consistent, travels well in his races, but doesn't always find off the bridle. I'm going to come down on Joke Dancer, not because I think he's in form, because he's not. He's coming here on the back of 3 okay runs this season, but I think going this way round might improve him. When he's been running the other way round at places like Haydock and Wetherby, he's been jumping out to his right. And I think if he does jump out to his right, it won't be a problem at Musselburgh. He slipped quite markedly in the weights. He ran in a good race at Carlisle last time behind an improving horse of John Joe's called Papa Tango Charlie. He's been dropped a further £4, but he's been dropped around a stone from about 12 months ago. He could represent value off just 128. I noticed that he's the outsider in the Racing Post betting forecast, so I'm going to go for Joke Dancer.
No, fair shout again. Like I said, dropping the weights. 128 now for a horse that basically has won off marks of a lot bigger than that. 134 twice at Warwick and Wetherby over fences, and 127 at Haydock. So perfectly well handicapped Joke Dancer if he likes it. I agree with you, Nev, about Nietzsche. I think Nietzsche is the class act off that mark, 127. But for some reason, even though he's won 3 times over fences, recently he's been showing signs that he's really not enjoying. And he wouldn't be the biggest. I can remember I was at Cartmel in 2019, and I was there that day when he ran. And I spoke to Brian, and basically the one worry with Nietzsche going chasing, he isn't the biggest. He's never been, I mean, obviously not bred to do it. Poet's voice out of a generous mare. It's basically, he's not, I don't think he's the most natural of fencers. And I don't, like I said, his enjoyment level's probably getting less and less as time goes on. But that's
he refused, didn't he, at Cheltenham?
Yeah.
I know it was a long way behind, and you can't blame him for wanting to call it a day, but he did refuse. He's never looked a natural over fences, has he? But the fences at Cheltenham and the fences at Musselburgh are completely different. So it might be that the smaller courses suit him, because if he lacks a bit of scope. You know, I wouldn't write him off.
No, not off that mark.
I wouldn't write any of them off, to be honest.
No, it's that kind of race. In fact, it's very tricky up at Musselburgh. So my advice to listeners, unless you fancy something strong, maybe not bother too much there. It is tricky racing, even for us to sort. Finally, then, chaps, we just move over to Tramore for the 220 for the Alboom Boar race, where he's obviously runs his Gold Cup prep. Have we got any thoughts on this? Can we get him beaten?
Yeah, let's hope so.
I mean,
what a shit house.
I mean, it's an interesting. I mean, trainers are trainers, and they do what they do, but it's got to be the most boring of Gold Cup profile winners I think ever. I mean, I don't. It's won at Tramore in 2019, 2020. On the run up, to the festival, and I'm a bit like Henderson sometimes. I know they're looking after these horses, and they have to do the best for them. But are we saying this is a sexy look for racing? That one of racing's best staying chasers makes an appearance at Tramore and then goes straight to the festival. Nev, what's your thoughts on it? Because you're a trainer, so.
Didn't they want to run him somewhere else before? Was they going to go to Leopardstown with him over Christmas? Sure. I think they were, and for whatever reason they've redirected him to his usual race. I mean the trip's probably on the short side for him. 2 mile 6. He's not going to be 100% fit. I mean, there's no way William Mullins is going to have him absolutely at his peak. So he's going to have to run to near his mark to win. If Brahma Bull, who gets £7, can run to his mark of 157, that would take him to 164 at the weights. He hasn't got much to find with Alboom Photo. For me, he wouldn't be a bet for me. I wouldn't even be interested at 2 to 5 or 1 to 2, whatever price. I'd rather just watch the race. But if I had to have a bet in the race, I would lay him. Yeah. I don't think it'll be at his best. And you know that William Mullins wins with lots of second and third strings, but it's shit really, isn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, the locals probably love to see the Gold Cup winner, but it's just a waste of time.
It'd have been better if they let the Gold Cup winner parade and let the other horses start the race.
Actually, that's a very good point. It'd make up for a competitive affair. I think it should be quite an interesting race.
More interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think he's opposable. I'm not saying he'll get beaten, but I think he is opposable at the weights.
Yeah. And
it's just a shame that they couldn't sort of restructure the conditions of the race. Maybe have them as having given these horses £10 penalties rather than 7, just to make it a little bit more competitive.
Yeah.
I tell you what we should have done. We should have took the hint when the miserable bastard didn't run in the King George. That's what we should have.
Well, yeah.
Alboom Photo running in this, Willie. If you watch.
Well, to be fair, he's ended up winning the King George with I mean, he's as I said, it kind of, what a sickening affair that was. Everyone's on Clanders Herber. Well, I was anyway. In running as well. I thought, well, yeah, we're all right here. But no, good old Willie. Anyway, yeah. So an interesting race at Tramore. If you fancy getting Alboom Photo beat at 2 to 5, some value might be had. Nev thinks that the prices are probably a little bit skewed and wrong. Maybe Alboom Photo will drift a little bit.
If you were making a tissue, Lee, what price would you put him in at? I'd put him in at about evens. I don't think he's too...
I wouldn't go evens, but I would certainly. It's one of those as well that it's a difficult race to price, because if he's 90%, for the race, like you said, that kind of then with the £7, that makes him nearly almost. But I can see why you're saying that now. But I would probably around the 8 to 11, 4 to 6 mark. That's where I would pitch.
I would lay him at 2 to 5. I think he's worth taking on at 2 to 5.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. There's no way. There's 2 to 5 chances you can find on most days of the week, whether that's Dutching 2 horses or whether that should be 1 to 5. And Alboon Photo is definitely not a 2 to 5 chance, knowing that he won't be fully tuned up. So yeah,
he can't go off 2 to 5, can he?
No, I think he'll drift. I think most people think the same, and I think you'll probably see him around the. I expect him to see around 158, 16, 162 at least, or if not bigger.
I mean, anybody outside the racing blogger that fancies piling into that at 2 to 5, I've got to fucking transport a bridge here for them to buy.
The old Wiedersehen Pet Days. Great series. Right. We hope you enjoyed the show this week. We've certainly given some good input. Neville Ender, thank you to you, Nev, and thank you to you, John. Really enjoyed your input, and Happy New Year to you both. And hope, Neville, you train some more winners. And Demi Sang wins another 3 or 4 on the bounce. Before we go, just like to announce that we're back on Sunday for the Sunday sermon. Myself, John, and Lorne Malvo are back to chew the fat on racing's failings, as always, where we'll give a few rants. And next Friday, we're back with a new bar steward. We've got 4 lined up for the tipping, and I can assure you, we're very pleased that this bar steward has landed with us, and all will be revealed next Friday as we move forward to our next tipping show. So that's all from me, John and Nev. Have a great New Year, great evening tonight if you're listening tonight. If not, have a great Sunday. Hope you're not too hungover. Bye for now.
Right, the show's over, boys. Thank you very much.